Hey, what's going on, everybody? And welcome back to this week's episode of the Get Over Yourself podcast, where I am joined by Richard Walsh. And Richard, I'm going to tell you a little bit about him because he is a seasoned entrepreneur of 30 years. He's also a best-selling author of Escape the Owner Prison, the contractor's new way to scale, regain control, and fast-track growth while loving life. A speaker and podcast host, he's a husband and father of 6 children, a U.S. Marine, champion boxer, black belt, and an internationally recognized steel sculptor. His expertise lies in combining both the strategic and the tactical. He's able to deliver immediate problem-solving results, along with strategic, long-term implementation of systemization and scalability. With over 30 years in business himself, Richard has embraced time compression, sharing the secrets and strategies that bring rapid and lasting results to the companies he works with. Richard, I appreciate you for joining us on today's episode of the Get Over Yourself podcast. With that all being said, let's jump into the episode.
Sounds good, Brandon. Thanks so much for having me on, man. I appreciate it. Been looking forward to it.
Yeah, real quick, Richard and I, right before we hit record, we were talking a little bit about the concept of time and how we both appreciate when somebody shows up on time and they're able to communicate if they are going to be late or are going to miss an event, that they will communicate that with you. And Richard, he was just telling me a little bit about that's why he wears his watch. For everyone who's watching today's episode, show them your watch you got on today, Richard. Got the beauty going on today. But yeah, it's an interesting concept. Maybe we could start today. There's nothing that grinds my gears more than when somebody commits to something and they're incredibly late. They don't give you any warning. They just kind of live on their own timetable and not the timetable that's kind of common for everyone. I feel like the reason why we have time is because we all have a general understanding of it and we can all base our entire framework off of time. So yeah, let's start there, Richard. Tell us a little bit about why you believe showing up on time is important.
Yeah, I'm, maybe this is a little more old school, but I'm of the, saying if you're not 15 minutes early, you're 20 minutes late. Okay, so I start there. Okay, so that's my thing. So if you're going to invite me over at 5, I'm going to be there at or before 5, right? I'll probably be before. The important thing about it is people talk about time management. Guess what you can't do? You don't manage time. Time is consistent. You manage yourself in time. So it's about self-management. It's not about time management. So when you can't meet appointments, when you're late for things or you don't show up at all and you forget, that's 100% on you. It has nothing to do with time, right? And here's what I tell people, Brandon. Here's a little thing you can use for people too. And then people say how busy they are and I don't have time for this and I don't have time for that. Like when I'm coaching business, I don't have time for that. I said, well, let me ask you a quick question. And you have 2 seconds to answer. How many hours are in a week? 1, 2. They can't answer. So if you don't know how much time there is, how can you not have enough of it? It's really simple. So I'm big on calling people out on stuff like that. Because if we break it down, we could spend a whole show on breaking down 168 hours, right?
Yes, we absolutely could.
And it's amazing what you can actually get done when you remove a few simple toys like a phone and a television. All of a sudden your world is opened up in time. But also time is about capturing that time and utilizing it in the most productive way possible. And I get it. We all need downtime. Okay. We need a veg. We need to whatever zone, do your binging or whatever they do. But really is the utilization of how productive are you in time.
That's awesome. Great way to start. And for today's podcast, an entrepreneur yourself and all the listeners who are young entrepreneurs of this show, time is something that we need to start capturing now because my generation, what do we hear from every generation above us? It's, I wish I had more time. It's, I wish I spent more time with the ones I loved. It's, I wish I spent more time doing something I was passionate about. And so everyone who's listening to today's episode, Richard, keep in mind that we're in that journey where we can make those decisions for ourselves right now. We can choose our destiny with our time. Heck, that's why most of us are jumping into entrepreneurship. It allows us to capture our time. And so let's start off. You're a best-selling author. You obviously are a seasoned entrepreneur. You've been working in the entrepreneurship space throughout various businesses and consulting for the past 30 years now. Start off with a little bit about your book and why you wrote it and what it means to you.
Yeah, it ties in really good. This is really good for you startup people. Just use that as a general term. Okay. So escape the owner prison is about people who get into business. Okay. And here's something I tell people I have not discovered in all my years, 30 plus years of entrepreneurship. I have not found a way to make a startup easy. Okay. That you're not going to work a lot. Okay. First 2 years, you can wear a lot of hats. You can work a lot of hours. You're going to get a lot of things done. You're going to pick up a lot of scars, a lot of bruises, a lot of bumps, and you need to. You're going to lose money. Okay. You're going to make you're going to make dumb mistakes. You're going to make costly mistakes. You're going to do you can have a lot of frustration. That's part of the game. Know that going in, like you have to do that. I don't work with startups for that reason because they don't value what I bring because they haven't been through enough, issues, right? Problems and all that stuff. But the big thing about escape the owner prison is, okay, we get it. The first 2 years, we just went through it. That's hard. But then all of a sudden you wake up, it's 10 years down the road and you've repeated the first 2 years 5 times. And that's why you're not growing. That's why you're not scaling. You're making some money and you're kind of a glorified employee really. But if you don't turn the lock in the morning, the business doesn't open, right? You're trapped. You're a prisoner. You serve the business does not serve you. So that's the key. So I wrote the book because I was in that for 20 years with my first business and I was massively successful, right? The outward appearance, right? The scorecard, the money, the house, all this stuff. And then you realize but I really can't leave for more than a week or 2 weeks. And I had people, I had crews, I had things like that. And then 0809 hits and everything collapses, crushes and everything evaporates overnight. Well, you realize that you wearing all the hats, doing all the stuff actually was a huge detriment to your company because now you couldn't weather a storm like that. Because I don't blame the economy. I don't blame the financial collapse. I blame all the things I didn't do because making money, Brandon, is the easiest thing you can do in business. It sounds weird. That. I'm telling you, it's so easy to make money. Cause it's fun and you get to get money. Okay. But go do all the other stuff in business to make your business legit, keep it operating, whether it's delegation, automation, whatever that is, it's very difficult. So think about that, guys. When you're starting, you're running this, you want your time, right? You're doing it so you're your boss. You choose when you work, when you don't work, when you go here, do this. And I love it. That is the greatest freedom there is, but it can rapidly turn into a prison.
Oh, it definitely can. And I appreciate that concept of your book where you're sitting in your own cell that you've created, you've built up. I'm picturing this inside of my own head right now. You have a bed in the middle of the room, and over the past few years, for you it's 20 years, maybe for somebody else it's 8 years into the journey or the past couple of years, wherever they're at, and they're slowly building up this brick cell around them. They're doing it to themselves. They're building the walls, they're putting the door on, they're closing the lock. And I think that's a concept we all fear. And that's one of the big fears of being an entrepreneur is, okay, I'm going to jump into this. I'm going to work for myself. And at the beginning, we're pumping out these 50 to 80 hour work weeks, sometimes more, sometimes way more. And we fear that, okay, I'm putting in all this work and effort into something. I believe it's going to turn into something. Right now, I don't really know if it's going to be anything. I'm just hoping for the best. I'm putting in my effort for it. But then once it does turn into something, like you said, you start earning the money and it starts going your way. You've been so used to being the head honcho, the one who's getting everything done, the one who's running all the operations, that you can't seem to start delegating. You can't seem to start letting other people handle some of these tasks. It may not be exactly how you like it, may not be the exact formula that you wrote, but just letting yourself kind of step back for a second and say, all right, I had the reins for a long time. I'm going to give this and pass it on over to you.
That's exactly what it is, Brandon, because you might be the greatest. And I'm going to make an assumption that you are the best at what you do. There's no one better. And that's why you started the business. And I congratulate you for that. And the next guy on your team might do it 95 or 97% as good as you. You can give it to them because your customers, to be honest with you, don't know the difference. That's strictly in your mind. It's strictly an ego thing. And you have to let it go. Like I tell a lot of my trades guys, put the hammer down, the literal hammer, put the drill down. Okay. You got to stop working on the job site. Get off the roof. Okay. You don't belong up there. You need to be getting jobs for your guys to do the work, right? So you have to delegate. And this is a really key point, Brandon. When people say, well, you got to delegate. And I use 3 things: automate, delegate, and eliminate, right? Those are my 3 things we focus on. Now, delegate doesn't mean you just tell someone to do something. Okay. It doesn't work. That's, you're setting yourself up for major failure. whatever you're going to have them do, whatever the job position is, it has to have job functions. It has to be built out. Specifically what they do, how they do it, even to the training to train how you do it, right? If you do that, now you can delegate. Don't pre-delegate before you have everything set. Because I tell people as entrepreneurs, we figure things out. We solve problems. That's how we live. We love it, right? We thrive, we grow, we scale. People who work for you have no interest in that. They want to come to work. They have competency. They want to work in a lane and they want to do really well. They want to be recognized. They want to do well. And they want to take what skill they have, but they got to learn your system. They may do that for someone else's system. You may have a few different things, whether it's different software or a different method. They want to learn it and run with it. And you need to give them those tools. If they got to figure out, they did not get hired with you to figure out your business. They got hired to work. They want to come at 9:00, work till 5. They want to come at 7, work till 3. Whatever they want to do, let them do that. But if you don't empower them to do that, and the last thing on that is give them authority, like the authority to do that, not just get it done or else, right? You have authority. If you're over someone, you have the authority to be over that person, right? So really important. So you got the automate part, automate whatever you can. And that's a vast array of different things we can do these days, right? From VAs to software to AI to all that cool stuff. Delegate, like we just talked about. And then there's eliminate. Okay. Eliminate redundancies, eliminate inefficiencies, right? That's pretty common. But you know what you're forgetting to eliminate? Yourself. Okay. You need to eliminate you from this picture, from those day to days. You have to, you need to focus on what I call your 5%, Brandon. That's 5% of the things only you can do in the business. You're the visionary. You're seeing growth. You're building strategies, right? That's what you need to focus on. Everything else, if you've done it right, will run itself.
That's awesome advice there, Richard. And I want to break that down a little bit for all the young startups out here that listen to this show. A lot of them are in that same boat where they're probably thinking, okay, we have the operations down. I feel like I'm exactly how you just described. I'm running all the operations. I'm the visionary. I'm handling 15 different things at the same time. Question I have for you that you're so keen on, it sounds like, is you believe in hiring good workers who know their lane, who can be rewarded, who can be recognized, who could be achieve something great inside of their role. So my question for you, Richard, is when do you believe it's the right time to start hiring some of those employees?
The right time is, it's always as needed, right? A lot of times in the beginning, it's not going to be. Right now, some people can put a dollar amount on it in income, right? Hey, every $250,000 that your company's earning gross revenue, you hire someone. That's a real simple little litmus test because you got to afford these people, right? But you really need to prioritize. So here's a neat way to do it. And it's going to kind of jump into a little other topic, but it's called exit strategy. Okay. So exit strategy, the best time to start that, especially if you guys are just starting a business, is before you launch. Have your exit prepared before you sell your first dollar's worth of stuff. Okay. And the reason being, when you set a time like, hey, I'm going to do this for 10 years. I want to exit with X amount of dollars, $5 million, whatever. I want to generate passive income to replace my active business income. So let's say I'm a 7-figure earner in my own business. That's what I'm worth. I'm making that. Well, great. But if I'm going to exit in 10 years or 5 years or whatever it is and say I get a $5 million check, well, what happens to my $1 million income? Now I'm negative, right? I've just lost that. Well, can I accumulate assets, create passive income and build that along the way? So that also now I've got $83,000 a month coming in passive income. Now I've got my $1 million and I got the exit check and I can go on to the next thing, right? And I can use that to continue building assets. So you reverse engineer. You go to the exit and you work your way back. So when you do that, Brandon, now you know we need to hire people, right? Because you know how your business is going to grow. So the bait and switch in entrepreneurship is you run hard and you build and you go and you really don't have a complete plan. And part of that's okay. Okay. I believe in ignorance on fire. It'll get you really far. Okay. Cause you're just driven to do it. You'll figure things out. And I did exactly the same thing. I started with a wheelbarrow and a shovel, right? And just started working and built a huge thing. But what you want to do is like, once you do that, it causes you to slow down and be at peace because you understand where you're at in your business because you have an exit strategy. So when you start making money, opportunity is going to come to you. Your friends go, oh, you should do this and you can make money doing this and you should add this to your business. Well, okay, it could be right, could be wrong. But if I have an exit strategy, I can run that as a business filter. Okay, does it get me closer to my exit strategy or does it detract from it? If it detracts, it's a hard no. If it's getting me closer, okay, put it on. Great, I get there faster. That's okay with me, right? And on the flip side, if you get to that 10-year mark and you're like having a ton of fun, loving it, you're making a bunch of money, you get to move the goalpost. You can hang out for a few more years, you can do whatever you want, right? So keep that in mind, but it really gives you that sense of peace. And now you start to see when you're going to hire someone. Back to the original question, right? You understand when I'm at this point because you'll see I'm scaling here. That means I'll have this much revenue. I'll be able to afford this. I'll need this piece of the puzzle to get to the next level because it's all levels. So consider it that way. But that exit strategy, it's a critical part of every business that most people leave out or they start to design as soon as they're ready to get out. That's bad timing.
Awesome advice there. And I got to ask you too, what kind of strategy would you tell, or what kind of mindset would you give a young business owner that fears everything that they're currently doing? They feel almost like they're an employee wasting their time. Here they are working, let's say they're working a 70-hour work week, almost double to what somebody else will be working in a regular week. They're pumping out their 70 hours and they feel like at this point they feel like an employee. They feel like they're just doing the day-to-day operations that they could be for any other job. But at the same time, they're also taking the salary hit. Odds are they're losing money in the early days of the business. They're pumping in more hours and they kind of have this stress of, is this actually going to work out? What's the mindset you would share with them, Richard?
You know, I'm going to tell them because the Harvard Business Review says that the number one reason businesses fail is they're undercapitalized. Okay, that is not correct. I don't care if they're Harvard or whatever, they're wrong. The reason you fail is you don't sell enough product at a high enough price. Okay. You got to sell. You got to make money, right? If you're caught in 78 hours of work and you feel like you're doing all this stuff and you want to get out of that, why can't you hire someone? Because you don't have the money. You can't afford that person, right? Or maybe you don't know it's time to hire someone, right? We go back to the exit strategy thing, but focus on sales. Focus on selling your service, selling your product. Put your energy there. Some stuff can wait. You got to get your sales up so you can bring people on. And the only way you do that is by generating income, right? So you've got to focus on that. That would be my advice. Very simple, straightforward. And remember, what's the easiest thing to do in business? Make money, right? Focus on making money. Get the money so you can start hiring people. Because if you do it right, again, there's a lot to this we won't be able to get into probably in the show. If you do it right, every person you hire is an asset, not a liability. And an asset means to me that person is free. You know why they're free? Because they're going to produce more than I pay them. So I approach people on my team as assets. They're high producers. So I am in a hurry to hire them. Right? So that's what you got to focus. But again, you got to pay them. Right? But have their jobs built out, have those lanes built out, put them in and let them run. Get the best and run with it. But focus on sales.
I love that. And that's a great concept I want to throw out your way as well. And at an early stage, for everyone who's listening to this podcast today, these young entrepreneurs are trying to figure out what the heck their business is doing. They're trying to figure out who they want to sell to, find that product market fit, figure out what they want to do with their lives inside of this business so they can eventually have that exit strategy. And it's interesting too, you bring this up where you should have it right when you get going inside of your business. But for everyone who's already a little bit into this journey, what are some of your best tactics to finding that early product market fit, finding exactly who you want to start making these sales to? Because per your advice, in a business, the easiest thing should be making money. You're right. But in the reality of it, that's the thing that most entrepreneurs fear is, okay, I'm making all of this. Will it actually turn into profit for me?
Right. So it's called ICP, right? Ideal client profile. That's something you have to build out. And another thing is should be built out before you launch. But I don't care if you're in 6 months in or 8 months in. I have people who've been in 30 years and I'm doing this with them. Okay. They haven't done it in 30 years, but they never really defined their customers. They're kind of got a wide net, if you will, right? So you've heard riches are in the niches, right? So you understand that like you need to know exactly who your client is, who's your ideal customer. So let's say you have a service business and you've done a lot of work for different people. I don't care if it's landscaping or carpet cleaning or whatever it is. You know, you deliver a bottle of water or I don't know, clean up dog poo. I don't care whatever you do, right? But the point is like, first thing you do is go, well, who's my favorite customer? Who do I love actually? Who's really, they tip me. They always call. They set it up, man. They never hassle me about money. They're just, it's such a joy. Who is that person? And you say, well, that'd be Mrs. Jones. Okay. Well, Tell me about Mrs. Jones. Is she married? Does she have kids? What size house does she live in? How much money does she make a year? How many cars are in the driveway? Right? Start to break it down. Where does she hang out online? Where does she hang out offline? Does she work out? Is she a fitness person? Does she like that kind of stuff? You need to break down. I have like multiple page worksheets on this that I'll take through to really know your customer better than themselves. Find that ideal person, and now you can target your marketing. Now you know who you're looking for. Now you know the circles you need to get into. You're not going to go to Planet Fitness. You're going to go to a high-end membership club maybe, right? Or maybe it is Planet Fitness and that's where your ideal client is because you want them to spend $10 and that's it, but like 100 times. Okay. So either way that works, but you got to understand your ideal client profile and really know them well because then you can serve them. Because everybody is going to take, like if you say, I want my customers to be satisfied. Like I don't allow my clients to ever say that because that's the most ambiguous statement. What does that mean? Everyone's degree of satisfaction is completely different. Like you're not going to satisfy everybody. What are you going to actually do? Right? So understand what you deliver. Understand the outcome of that product you deliver, who's going to have it, and why is it not just a sale, but goes way beyond that. Right? So if you can focus on those aspects, you're going to save money by targeting your marketing, right? It's just not a wide net approach. Throw stuff against the wall, but you're also going to really understand. You're going to start to close deals because you're speaking the same language. Okay. Because they're going to be like you. So that's where you want to take it.
Yeah. And a lot of what you just mentioned, in my mind, it goes back to goal setting. It goes back to these are the frameworks that I want to get done in this month, this year, this week. Wherever you're starting your goal setting process inside of your business, you should be breaking it down into your weekly goals, your daily goals, your monthly goals, your yearly goals. And it's interesting you mentioned that, where a lot of times people will just be they're closing their eyes, they're covering their eyes, and they're throwing a blind dart and they don't know where it's sticking. And I'm in a group right now. We meet up every Monday morning. It's a group of young business owners here where I live. And every Monday morning we meet up at a little breakfast joint and we discuss what we did the previous week on our business and what we're going to try and work on for the upcoming week. And it's very interesting in this group. You have people who have very defined goals. And when they bring their metrics every single Monday, they are able to say, I hit this goal. I came up a little bit short on this one, so I'm going to finish that out this week. They have very defined metrics. And then, like you mentioned, Richard, there's the other businesses who have these very ambiguous goals. There's no real way to track them. This week, I want to see if my customers are satisfied. How do you know that? You go and provide the work, but at the end of the day, somebody's satisfaction is totally arbitrary. And then you have other people, they're setting these goals. Well, I think I want to talk to a few different people and see what they think about my product. Okay, how many is a few? Put an actual number goal to it. It's very interesting because it seems like at the end of all these weeks, when we meet up on these Monday mornings, you could tell the businesses who set the very clear goal, this is where we want it to be by the end of the work week on Friday. This is where we want to be. Those are the ones come Monday morning that have things to report. They have a clear vision of where they were and where they're headed. And they have the clear layout of everything. And it's honestly from the other standpoint as a viewer, as sitting back and hearing where they're at and giving them feedback and giving them advice and whatnot. And then they give me advice in return. I feel like the ones who come in with those goals and those strategies, they're the ones that I'm able to follow more. I understand where they're headed. I can understand their business model, and it just makes more sense.
And think about that. And if you can, so can their customers, right? Their customers understand what they're offering because a confused mind does nothing. So if you're not crystal clear on what you're delivering, okay, no one's going to say yes, right? Also, what you're saying too, with those people, they can be held accountable, right? There's an accountability there. They're coming prepared for the week to show you what they did. You can't fix what you don't measure, what you don't track. Right? How can you gauge it? How can you do anything if you don't do that? When someone will tell me, well, yeah, I close about probably 60% close rate. I go, about 60%? I said, well, what are the real numbers? Because it won't be about 60%. That's not what the measuring is going to tell you. Okay. It's going to say 60.3%. It's going to say, and I bet if I go through yours, it'll be 27 and not 60 because you think you're closing all these jobs. You don't track. It's like the time thing, right? It's like you don't know how many hours in a week. You think you close that many? There's no thinking in that. It's legit. I talked to 10 people. I closed 3 deals. I'm 33%, right? I'm 32.8% on my close rate. right? Okay, good. Now we know. Well, let's make it better. What do we have to do to make that better, right? You come to your meeting. Hey guys, like, look, I'm kind of stuck at 33% on my close rate. Anyone got any ideas I can do this? I've done this, this, and this. I'm tracking this. My guys are out there hitting this. Now you can give them legitimate help, just like I could, right? Because I understand where exactly they're at, and now you can make improvement. But if it's a kind of maybe, I think I do. Some people tell me they close 90%. I'm like, really? Like, you need to come work for me. I need a 90% closer on a consistent basis because that doesn't really happen very often. You're a unicorn, but they're not, of course. They're closing at 35, 40%.
Yeah. Well, perception is reality. Isn't that what we learned, right?
So they
awesome.
think.
Well, hey, Richard, as we're closing out on today's episode of the Get Over Yourself podcast, I do want to ask a few final questions. Where can people find you if they want to continue hearing some of the words of advice you've shared today, as well as if you have any final pieces of advice you would like to share with the audience?
Yeah, sharpenthespiritcoaching.com. That's the website. You can book calls with me. You can contact me via email. I got a great blog on there, tons of information, other good stuff on there. So sharpenthespiritcoaching.com would be ideal. If you want my book, Escape the Owner Prison, just hit Amazon. You know, the guys who got the monopoly on book sales, those guys. So it's there with everybody else's. That's really awesome. Final words, Brandon. I'll tell you what, I'm going to give you, because right where you guys are at, your audience, I'm going to give you a quote I learned 25 years ago. I don't know, a long time ago. And I'm just going to quote it to you. Okay. Dedication to a goal that never wavers. Resolution. This is the basic principle in the life of every truly great character. He who resolves upon a great and good end has by that very resolution clothed himself in power and has scaled the chief barrier to it. Okay. Now I'm crediting Steve Ilg with that because he wrote a book called Outdoor Athlete. Didn't have any, he just had that. Didn't have unknown, didn't have anything. So I'm going, it's got to be his. So that's who I credit. Great book, came out like 95 or something, 94. I don't remember. But resolution, guys, it's sticking to what you do, the perseverance. The first years are the hardest. But if you plan it and do a few of the things we talked about, you got to plan to make it better. Because again, that business needs to serve you, not serve it. So best of luck to all you guys.
Perfect. Well, everybody, make sure to go check out Richard's book. Once again, it is Escape the Owner Prison. You can find it on Amazon under Richard Walsh as the author. Also, go check out his website. All of this will be linked in the episode description below in the show notes. So if you ever are trying to find it and you can't, just go ahead and scroll down below, whether you're watching on YouTube, listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you're listening to today's episode, just scroll down and the information will be there. Likewise, I appreciate you all for joining us on today's episode. If you heard this conversation and you thought of anyone who could potentially benefit from it, somebody at your local church, a family member, a friend, share this episode with them. You guys are my best form of marketing. That's how I continue to grow the show. That all being said, I'll see you guys next week.